I'll start with a real-life story which sounds almost like a modern parable. Over the years, we had big corporate clients, and I visited their offices quite frequently, and there were plenty of places around the campus where you could get free soft drinks and free coffee, which was nice, except for the fact that the coffee was hardly drinkable. At the same time, you could go to a canteen on the same campus, and there was a separate counter for one of the popular national coffee chains where you could get better coffee, but obviously you needed to pay. Actually, it gets even more intriguing. One of my acquaintances who worked for the company for years told me that from time to time their procurement organized coffee tastings where employees who were interested in better coffee were supposed to vote, and they expected to get something better in return. Interestingly, absolutely, unmistakably, every time procurement has selected the crappiest and probably the cheapest coffee blend, so nothing improved. Overall, I would say you can call it like the bean counters have got the upper hand and decided to save on beans, pun intended. Well, then let's think about the intention and the message they've got across. They probably, by providing free soft drinks and free coffee, intended to demonstrate to the employees that they cared about them. The message that got across was quite the opposite. First, we're stingy, and second, we pretend that we care about you, but in reality we do not care a flying fuck. It all started when one of our important clients of that time suddenly remembered 3 days before a big regional computer show that they had some 4 hours of video on 3 VHS cassettes, if anyone remembers what it is, that they wanted to dub so that they could show them during the show, which was quite a challenge. Okay, so how was it done then? Well, first of all, I've taken the 3 cassettes, and 4 hours of video is quite a lot, actually. And I needed to do this transcription. And the only way to do transcription with video cassettes that were absolutely analog, nothing digital, was to sit with a VHS player and a TV connected to it and just do it phrase by phrase, sentence by sentence, recording it as it goes. Moreover, when you stop a VHS player, the sound it emits was very awkward, like a bowel movement. So every time you just stop it every 10 or 15 seconds so that you can record everything. And it lasted, I felt like, forever. Second, you need to check the terminology. The whole thing, which was a set of lessons or lectures delivered by the charismatic person Philip Kahn, who was president of Borland. Nowadays, very few people remember the name, but believe me, it was very well known and famous in the 1990s. So Philip was covering a novel topic of object-oriented programming, directly related to their most popular product like Turbo C and Turbo Pascal. So you needed to check the terminology, and at that time there were no online dictionaries, no Google. So what you had to do is use a dictionary, printed one, the size of a Britannica atlas, really, and search for terms and figure out the closest translations. Number 3, you had to type it into a Word document in MS-DOS. Nothing there, no dictionaries, no glossaries, nothing, just a spell checker. Finally, you had to print it out because at that time there were no monitors in the studio recording cabins. You had to print your materials and read from those paper sheets. The only thing that is very similar to what it is now is the whole voiceover process. The studio and the whole process looked more or less the same as it looks now. That's the only thing in common. But then the engineer had to transfer all those audio recordings to the original video using another professional tape machine called Betacam. Once again, long forgotten, but at that time, that was the only means available. Well, to tell the truth, it was quite a challenge, but despite only having 3 days, we've done everything. So on the last day before the exhibition, I recorded everything from morning till the very late hours in the day in the studio, all 4 hours of final video, and the sound engineer, he post-processed everything and mixed the tapes overnight. So Borland had all their tapes to show at the exhibition on time, which was quite a feat. To continue the topic of AI, I want to start with a funny story. It's short. 2 people from the top 1% meet at a posh bar on a Friday evening, and one immediately starts bragging. Okay, you know what? I've got a trained elephant for 5 million, and you know, it takes care of the children. It even knows how to operate a lawnmower and does a lot of chores around the house. And the other one is immediately envious. Okay, you know what? I have a flashy party in a couple of weeks, and I really need a gem to shine there. I'm ready to pay you twice the price. Please sell it to me. Okay, for you only, I'll sell it for 10 million. In a week's time, they meet again. Same place, Friday evening. And the second guy says, you know what? There is something really wrong with that elephant. It doesn't take care of the children at all. Moreover, it destroyed the guest house completely and started fucking up the main residence. And the first one replies, you know what? I would strongly advise against criticizing the elephant too much. But why? I'm sick and tired of it already. You will not sell it. And I had an irresistible urge to recite a short adult nursery rhyme from my childhood that my father used to deliver when he was in a good mood and slightly inebriated. Here it is. Down the river drifts an axe from the town of Byron. Let's allow it to relax. Fucking piece of iron. And now the wish. I'll start with the lines from a great Ukrainian satirist, Zhvanetsky. He once said that wisdom comes with age, but very often age comes alone. So I wish I could belong to this elite and tiny community for whom wisdom comes alone. And I wish the same to you. Happy birthday to me. It's only coffee in the morning. It's time to tell a story. Walking around the development earlier today, I've seen the first huge skull erected on somebody's front lawn. People have started preparing for their Halloween really early. So I decided to tell you a scary story this time. Most of you know that the Soviet Union was late with creating its own atomic bomb. The US has come up with the bomb in 1945, and the Soviet Union was 4 years late. And it had its own similar atomic program supervised by the scary, hideous, terrible so-called Ministry of State Security. And the minister himself was also a scary, terrible, ghastly figure who probably committed more crimes against humanity than most other people who ever lived. Anyway, most of the top scientists working on that program, the guys who later got their Nobel Prizes, they didn't want to communicate directly with this person, partly because of fear and partly because they despised him and just didn't want to see this face. So they delegated this tedious and rather scary task to a junior scientist. It's the guy who told the story decades later. So when the final test has been finally conducted in 1949, the guy came to this interior minister once again, and he's got his last assignment, which was relatively easy, come to think of it. The minister asked him, okay, and now I need you to compile the list of people who need to be awarded. And there were two kinds of awards available. One, the highest one, was the hero of the Soviet Union, and a lesser one was the hero of the socialist labor. Yeah, sounds weird, but it is what it is. Anyway, this guy looks at the minister, he's completely lost, and he's saying, you know what, I haven't got a clue how to compile the list. The minister smirks at him and replies, well, come to think about it from a different vantage point, from a different angle. Suppose the experiment failed. Then all the key guys will execute them, and those whose contribution was significant, we would definitely put them in jail with very long sentences. So those who would be executed, these deserve to become heroes of the Soviet Union, and those who also contributed and who would all only get their jail time, they deserve to get the Heroes of Socialist Labor Award. Okay, so this guy, he was immediately enlightened because he immediately realized how to compile the list. When it comes to screwing up, let me first ask myself, do I screw up on a regular basis? And the answer is yes, I do. Regrettably, very often, I find myself in a situation when I personally or my company has done something wrong, and we have to figure out how to get ourselves out of this issue. And yes, I do feel like a dick. Yeah. By the way, this is a so-called zucchini dick, and we've got it as a gift after my previous podcast. I'm just wondering whether it was just a vegetable and people had plenty of them available, or it's an innuendo, and if it's the latter, whether it's a positive or a negative one. And let me tell you a story. Two hired assassins are waiting for their victim not far from the house entrance. And they know when the person arrives, they know the whole schedule and everything and all the details, but suddenly an hour passes and the victim does not arrive. Then another hour passes and the victim doesn't arrive. Finally, one of the assassins tells the other, you know, I'm really starting to worry. Maybe something has happened to him. I'll start with a story. Okay, as you may know, I have graduated as a Master of Sciences in theoretical physics. Obviously, we had a lot of physics and math starting day one, and these were not only lectures and seminars, but also labs. And the first lab we had, I'll remember it for the rest of my life. Originally, it seemed too trivial for the students at an elite technical university. We needed to measure Earth's gravitational acceleration, known as g. And for that experiment, it can be actually carried out by a 6-year-old. You only need a small, heavy steel ball suspended on a piece of string. And then you use it as a pendulum, just push it a little, it starts oscillating, and then you measure how many oscillations have you recorded in a minute? And that way you calculate the gravitational acceleration. It's simple because actually oscillation frequency only depends on the length of the string piece and on the gravitational acceleration, that is g, nothing else. So it's a trivial thing. The problem was that when we started measuring, and we were split into pairs to conduct these very intense experiments, when we started measuring, for some reason, we were getting weird results. The measured value of g was around 11 meters per square second rather than 9.8 that everyone who've studied physics at high school knows by heart. Well, and that led to a big moral problem. What do we do with that? Either we report it as is, and which means reporting weird, completely out of whack results, or we doctor these measurements. Well, I'll skip the moral torment part. At the end, approximately 60% of us, we adjusted our figures a little bit so that they were close to 10, between, say, 10 and 10 and a half. Let me just digress. Whatever management imperfections there could be, they were definitely below 5%. Anyway, so some of us have adjusted these values, and the rest, that is approximately 40%, reported the results as is. And then the professor, he just scanned through our lab reports briefly, put them aside, and said the following thing, and I'll remember it for the rest of my life. So this is what the guy said. I will not be grading this lab work because the ultimate goal was completely different. Let me start with the fact that there is a strong electric magnet under each work desk. When you started the measurements, or I turned it on, as a result, what you were getting and what you should have measured was an elevated value of G around 11 rather than 9.8 that everybody in the world knows. And this is not just about you falsifying the results, or at least some of you falsifying the results. It's about honesty in general and how you should behave in real life. In real life, your theories could be absolutely wrong, or there may be an unknown, unaccounted for factor that you are measuring, and you need to figure it out and eliminate it. And because of that, you should be completely honest with yourself and with your colleagues, and always measure the results exactly as they are without any regard for any theories or any fact you have known in advance. In this particular case, you all knew all too well that you should measure G as 9.8, and because of that, your actual reported results in many cases are skewed. But you should never do it in real life, and I really hope that you remember it for the rest of your career. Well, we learned our lesson. As far as you need to interpret the results objectively and act accordingly, you need to be honest with yourself and the others. Happy holidays, everyone. I was just thinking about how to start this video, and then an old, slightly naughty, adult nursery rhyme from my childhood popped into my head. It feels surprisingly relevant nowadays. Here we go. Donnie plods the road slowly. Outside, it's cold and snowy, but his dick is up and running, just in case there's something coming. Okay, so that is my wish for you. I hope that something unexpected and thrilling comes your way in the new year. And when it does, I hope you are just like Donnie, up, running, and ready to seize the moment. Happy 2026.